Well, I did try very hard to look for something positive. When I think about Saturn, Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, the world map will be redrawn.
To say that April is really loaded with intensity is an understatement.
So the least likely is to declare victory and call it a day with Iran. JD and Trump are just the face of it all.
We're going to see this destabilization of Iran because it has been destabilized every single time Neptune and Saturn are doing something in the sky. The world is out of our control. We're not in charge of this world.
Talking about Iran having a new female or high-powered voice or leader in 2026, I think we found her.
So don't be afraid of world astrology, but we're talking about major movements.
Lunatic astrology.
April 2026. Holy man, it's a pressure point in time. Guys, we have these multiple eclipse cycles that are being reactivated. We have a rare Mars, Saturn, and Mercury conjunction in Aries. We even have a bit of a shock event happening between Venus and Uranus at the tail end of Taurus. Not to mention Uranus moving into Gemini for the first time in over 84 years. To say that April is really loaded with intensity is an understatement. It's not another month. This is kind of where things can really break and shift. And in today's video with Donny Lim, my colleague and dear friend, we're going to be talking a little bit about what some of this might mean for the condition of the world. This will involve talks about places in our world where we have conflict and aggression. And in today's video, we also provide a silver lining. Donny gives each of the elements, the earth, air, water, and fire signs, a silver lining of hope when we talk about the Lyrid meteor shower in the third week of April and how that might be a place where you can actually find the most positive part of this month. So we're going to welcome Donny Lim of Donny Lim Astrology, and we're going to go ahead and cover over the next hour the things that you might need to know about world astrology. This is not a video that is about your sign in particular. If you haven't seen my all signs drops, I dropped 12 videos, 30 to 40 minutes each, about a week ago. Those videos come out the third weekend of every single month. And I really dive deeply into what you need to know for your sign, bit by bit, week by week. So go check those videos out for the personal astrology. This is for those of you who like the mundane or world astrology storylines as well. I also want to say that if you're listening to this video, you're probably going to be able to go either a couple of days ahead or a couple of days back and watch my new video where I talk about the month of astrology, the month of April's astrology. And I will put together all of my all signs individual videos in one long 7-hour format for anybody who wants to have it all in one place. But in the meantime, let's welcome our astrologer, mundane astrologer, Donny Lim, into our Zoom room. Yes, I'm so grateful yet again to be able to share the astrology of the world with astrologer Donny Lim. And we're today talking about the month of April. April's going to be a humdinger, as my mom used to say. We got some really intense aspects happening in our sky. And as I record this today on March the 25th, we're already all around the world kind of feeling a little bit like a Cuban Missile Crisis is underway with the Middle Eastern war situation. Donny's going to help us understand maybe a little bit of what he sees in our sky as April is about to unfold 2026. Welcome, Donny, and say hi and tell us all what you're up to these days.
Well, I just recorded another podcast earlier today, so they'll be out on my channel. And I think when this video comes out later this week, I'll be releasing a few articles on Substack mainly, but you, of course, can find the same content on my YouTube channel under community post because, why the alienation, right? And I'll be sharing some of my April stuff that's coming up, and it's going to be a supercharged month.
That's an understatement, supercharged. Yeah. So as I was looking at the month, trying to do my all signs videos for people that come out every month, of course, I focused on the most positive things that I could find in here. But it's also quite interesting that, well, we all live our individual lives. This is for those of you who are afraid of the world astrology. You could live in a bubble of, bliss and heaven, and it might really be quite wonderful, your world. So even though the world is shaking and baking up a lot of intensity post eclipses that we had in Aquarius and in Virgo, we all have our own little safety zones in our lives, our family, our friends. So don't be afraid of world astrology, but we're talking about major movements, and planets are indicators of those movements, not creators of those movements. They are like mirroring what will be happening and is happening. So Donnie, what are you seeing in April mostly that brings you into any kind of trepidation or concern?
Well, I did try very hard to look for something positive, put it that way. So that's first and foremost, like, hence, I did say that April is going to be very much of a highlighted month. And that's essentially coming from unfolding eclipses in April that happened some way back. I'm going to cover that. That's going to be in the first few days of April. But there is some silver lining to it as well. And as we progress into the month of April, particularly the 3rd week to 4th week of April, things will become so interesting. I'm sure that I have mentioned this in prior podcasts, that the 3rd week of April 2026, there's going to be a triple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to happen in the zodiacal degree range of, was it 7 to 9 degrees of Aries? So the cardinal signs will feel it the most via squares and oppositions. But then, just less than 96 hours later, we've got Venus meeting up with Uranus at 29 Taurus, the anaretic degree, before they both ingress into Gemini. So there is this kind of shift. And of course, not to mention that Uranus will enter Gemini for good by the time 25th to 26th April swings around. So right at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And that will have, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, and it's the last conjunction between Venus and Uranus because of the cycle. We'll be back for another 80-something years.
And of course, we got to look at also the mythological relationship between Venus and Uranus. If you think about how Venus was born, it actually came from Uranus, from their castration.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, I do. But Venus in her home kingdom, so maybe something good can come from this after all.
At 29 Taurus, I'm not too sure.
Oh, come on. We got to find a silver lining. Okay. Are you going to share any kind of slides today, or do you want to just chat about the sky as we go through the month? What's your preference?
I do have something. Well, I always like my slides because it brings us into that Virgo structural alignment. Mm-hmm. So I have to show here what I displayed or screen shared back in January 2026 with you on our first podcast regarding the Venus star point. And we're actually going in this clockwise direction, just like this arrow suggests. So if you think about it, Aries is ruled by Mars, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Scorpio, there's 2 rulers, Mars and Pluto. So you can see just from this correlation that Mars and Saturn cycle seems to be highlighted. And they are meeting up in April itself together with Mercury. So things are going to be supercharged, and probably what's that Will Smith song? Boom, shake the room, tiki tiki boom boom. It's almost like that energy, you know what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm going to mention some lyrics here and there because when we are recording this, Mercury is still in Pisces. So just to have an overview of what actually happened, I mean, we're recording this on 25th of March, but it's on the backs of the eclipse portal. And we still have eclipse activations. I'm sure that you've posted transit Mars triggering the eclipse point, and transit Mercury retrograde 3 times is activating the eclipse point. Actually, if I think about it, this Mercury retrograde is so important because it actually activated not 1, not 2, but the 3 previous total lunar blood moon eclipse points. All 3 of them.
Wow.
Because the first total lunar eclipse happened at 23 Virgo. That's close to where transit Mercury stationed retrograde,
Mm-hmm.
22-ish. And then we've got the one in September that happened at 15 degrees of Pisces. So there's a conjunction via the transit Mercury. And last but not least, we've got the latest one that we talked about in early March of this year that happened at 13 degrees of Virgo. So it's via opposition. So you can see how everything seems to be supercharged. So it's a hat trick of total lunar eclipse energies activated by this Mercury retrograde. But of course, Mars is also involved. Pallas Athenas is also involved. Vesta is also involved. So things can be just overwhelming as we speak. And
How,
this is,
can I ask you just a question? How are you interpreting Vesta? Whereas Athena can be, a goddess of war in the Roman tradition. What do you think Vesta contributes?
Vesta basically is about the sacred flame, the hearth of the home, right? Vesta. But Vesta, I have seen in clientele work, it also talks about endings and beginnings. And nothing says endings and beginnings like a total lunar eclipse activation by Vesta.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like because the eclipses are in Virgo and Pisces, so it's like this dissolution of the standing world order of sorts. This is how I interpret it. But of course, it depends on the country's charts. Like you did say that, was it Iran has got Virgo rising?
No. Virgo rising is Lebanon and also
Lebanon,
Mexico.
me.
Mexico, yeah.
Yeah, so these two will be in very much spotlighted, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked you about Vesta, and someone told me that the asteroids, the meteor showers were having these strange, like Texas baseball game meteor. Someone sent me an email and said that the scientists think it's bits of the asteroid Vesta. That's interesting that Vesta is falling from the sky, but also that Vesta is a Vestal virgins of the Roman tradition, and they were conscripted to go into service at ages 6 to 36. They couldn't have babies and they couldn't have a husband, but they were highly rewarded when they finished their service. But they were also keeping that sacred flame alive to keep the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. And so in the kingdom, and of course, we're not having the Roman peace, we're having the opposite. And Vesta has been highlighted during this cycle of intense energy in the eclipse story. So I think it's kind of interesting that you brought her up, because I wasn't thinking about that. And I'm thinking, okay, Vesta's supposed to try to keep the peace. Like she's like literally a tender of a sacred peace flame. And we're exactly in the opposite of a peace flame right now.
And if you think about it, when we think about the Virgo and Pisces axis, Virgo is represented with the lady with the scythe, harvesting the grain.
The sheaf of wheat, you mean? The version. Yeah.
And if we think about Vesta, Vesta was the firstborn child of Kronos or Saturn, and Rhea or Ops. And she was also the first to be swallowed by her father to prevent a prophecy that his children will overthrow him. And Vesta stayed the longest in Saturn's stomach. What does that tell you? Because I have seen Vesta being highlighted again and again for people with eating disorders.
Really? That's a fascinating find.
Yeah. On top of Saturn and of course Ceres and other stuff, but Vesta is always in there.
Interesting. Okay.
You know what that actually means for me? This is hinting at a food shortage that's coming up.
That would make sense because the oil prices are going to cause a huge amount of difficulty with fertilizer, which is what we need. The oil and gas industry are fertilizer creators. And so without fertilizer, if this war continues, we will see food shortages.
Yeah. One will lead to the other. And later on, I do see water shortages as well because of the way AI is being run. It's just very water intensive just to cool the data centers and the manufacturing of chips. I came from the semiconductor industry as an engineer. with my previous background, I know how much energy goes into manufacturing chips.
Wow. Okay. I can see the water problems. Yeah. Canada, Brazil, and China, three most water rich countries in the world, by the way.
Well, but China's water, their groundwater is like, well, that's a whole other story.
Okay. So let's continue. Let's continue with the April overview with this Iran story that you've got highlighted here and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I basically highlighted this because this came at around the time when transit Mercury and Mars triggered the latest total lunar eclipse point via opposition. And there's this big attack. Although this is Iran linked, but I still stand by what I mentioned here as part of the recap. There's somewhat connections linking back to China and North Korea.
Oh, you mean behind the scenes?
Yes, indirectly.
Mm-hmm.
Although the official narrative, the first three words are Iran-linked hackers, but I still see fingerprints of China and North Korea everywhere, put that way. And not to mention that we have probably have felt or still feeling the inflationary pressures from that Mercury retrograding in Pisces, the sign of oil, and Mercury being the price that it trades. And with it activating not one, not two, but three total lunar eclipses that happened prior, via conjunction and opposition, we have seen the effects of flights getting cancelled. Probably some airlines, boutique airlines are going bankrupt as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we will continue to see like more and more flights being cancelled. And I've been telling like my viewers since last year that 2025 is the last year in a while that traveling will be of ease and grace.
You know, you did mention that stuff too in one of our last conversations here on the channel around concerns about canceled flights. And of course, really, when you gave a whole swath of time, and it was made me laugh because my trip to Mexico, because of the drug cartel thing, had to be rearranged. I had to change it to the fall. So that meant my flight was changed. That meant my place I was staying was all changed up. So yeah, we're coming into higher prices for the fuel for the jets, and that'll really curtail tourism around the world as well.
And of course, like Mercury is also about the documents that you need to travel with. And that's even you gotta jump through more hoops with that. Traveling may not be as pleasant. Now you've got ICE agents hanging around the airports of the US. Because the TSA people are not being paid, and TSA agents are not exactly happy that, this is like destroying tourism and traveling altogether with that. So I just want to mention here that 25th April 2026, we step into, or should I say we are ushering a whole new paradigm of world with that Uranus ingressing for good into Gemini. But before that, Uranus will meet up with Venus. And this is something that I have showed probably like more than once. But I just want to mention here that right at the beginning of April 2026, on 1st to 2nd, depending where you are in the world, there will be a Libra full moon at 12 degrees and 21 minutes of that sign. And this is directly linked to a solar eclipse that occurred in early October 2024. At around 10 degrees of Libra as well. So 18 months later, from early October 2024, we've got this corresponding unfoldment of a full moon that is linked to this eclipse. Also at the same time, Mercury in transit will reach the greatest elongation, the west morning at 16 Pisces as well. 16 Pisces, this is in opposition to last September's total lunar eclipse point at 15 Pisces.
15 Pisces. How you
Conjunction.
and how do you interpret the Mercury's elongation triggering the Pisces eclipse from 2025? How are you seeing that?
Because Mercury is also a planet in which I look for when I analyze weather. So there could be watery weather, some kind of floods, perhaps. Because Mercury in the sign of Pisces is not exactly in its best dignity. And I don't know if there's going to be more floods happening to Hawaii, Oahu, because I know that they are having floods, but it's not on the news a lot.
No, I saw it on the news, but it isn't being covered. It's getting lost in the war.
It's not actively, yes.
Yeah.
And I do have clients from there. So I do not hope that this thing will happen to them again, first and foremost. But the next part is the interesting one, because notice that I have, right off the bat, talked about a Mars root Venus star point and a Saturn root Venus star point, then a Mars and Pluto root Venus star point. In April, we are going to have a triple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. This will kickstart a new 2-year synodic cycle, mundane cycle. This is going to lean us until end of April 2028, because the Mars and Saturn conjunction cycle typically lasts for 2 years. And this one and the next one are particularly interesting. This one, of course, it meets up with Mercury, but the next one is conjunct Chiron.
Really?
In 2028, and all of them are squaring Pluto.
All right. So Chiron will have moved into Taurus. For everyone listening, a synodic cycle is a cycle when two planets meet together in the sky. And then over the course, depending on the cycle, which synodic cycle you're looking at, then they will cause themes to occur over that time duration. Like we just had Mars meeting the Sun in Capricorn on January 9th, and that cycle closes down in spring, April of 28. So these two planets meeting by conjunction or beside each other in the sky then unfold a kind of like a keynote energy that unfolds over the course of different time durations, right? So just so they understand what we're talking about.
Yes, and that's why I've been looking at the Mars and Saturn conjunction cycles and basically track when the two planets in question, in this case is Mars and Saturn, when they square, oppose, and have a waning square. Those will be the key markers of like what may be going on in the world. Of the three, Mars is the strongest in Aries, is in its domicile sign. So what can that be telling you? Probably more Martian themes coming up. And news
meaning war.
Right. I hate to use that 3-letter word, but
yeah. Well, aggression, conflict, war, battles, those are key Martian words. Also decapitations, unalivings, and anything that causes cutting, ending, and severing.
And also things that need to use brute force.
Right.
Yeah. So I have also showed this in my prior presentation, but there's this sentence about me talking about Iran having a new female or high-powered voice or leader in 2026. I think we found her, Eureka. And she's Princess Noor Pahlavi. Her chart is so interesting because she's actually born with 14-degree Aries, where the unfoldment of that Libra solar eclipse, which will result in a Libra full moon at 12 degrees Libra, will follow next week as we speak on 1st to 2nd of April. And her sun is at 14 degrees of Aries, so it's in opposition.
Well, her sun is on this. Her sun is on the 11-degree sun of the nation of Iran, using the 1979 chart, with its Sag rising 17 degrees. So her sun is, with her moon, really basically attached to that particular very active and very accurate chart for Iran. Oh, not Sag rise, Leo rising 17 degrees, sun at 11. I mean, that one's been playing out with precision. And it's still the dominating chart. So the one that works the best in my research. So yeah, her sun is very hooked up to Iran's sun. So tell us more about her.
I mean, well, I've put down here her background, her advocacy and activism, and also education and career. I mean, she's born in Washington, D.C., because, her parents fled, right, Iran back then. And when I actually analyzed it and color-coded the activations, what's really interesting to me is that I do see this pattern of her speaking out more and more regarding for the women or women's empowerment within the country, for her home country. And what's really potent here is that later on this year, we're going to have a 20 degrees Leo total solar eclipse. This is right on her ascendant.
It's also right on the chart I use, Iran's ascendant, right? 17 degrees. And in fact, the South Node Jupiter conjunction that happens in Leo will happen in 3 parts. And the very last conjunction in the spring, May of 2027 is exactly 17 degrees because of the retrograde of Jupiter's 3 conjunctions for those listening. So it's right on the Iran ascendant. It's right on her ascendant. This is quite fascinating. She's literally locked and loaded, Iran's ascendant, her Leo ascendant, her sun, Iran's sun. It's pretty crazy.
And her ascendant is also squaring that Pluto in Scorpio. So definitely it gives her that power. I mean, this photo, I've taken it from her Instagram, talking about what's been going on with the girls and women of Iran. So I do see her voicing out more and more and more and getting so much more into her advocacy and activism as well.
That's a fascinating correlation chart that you dragged up. Well, not to get into the politics of it all, but under the Shah, there were fewer women in political power and fewer women in educational settings, including universities. And it's quite high now. There's quite a lot of women it's massive. So women aren't being banned in Iran, not defending a religious regime or not defending it, but it's not
theocratic regime. Theocratic,
I think. Yeah, but it's not true. In fact, the Shah's regime was despotic and a police state. So, to go, this might be a good break for people wanting to know the history here, not the history of Iran, but the astrological history of Iran. Otherwise, I'll sound like a pundit. Back in Iran is a little bit like Russia. It seems to run on a lot of Saturn-Neptune cycles. And that makes sense because Neptune is that religiosity or that trying to attain some spiritual truth or whatever. And Saturn is like regime or control or constriction. So Russia...
structures.
Yeah. And Russia's had that, right? Including banning religious practices. So those 2 nations have a lot of Neptune Saturn in their chart. But, if you go back historically, the Neptune Saturn conjunction in 1952-53, it had 3 passes because of retrogradation, was when the Iranian prime minister was overthrown by a USA-led and UK-led coup. So they had because he wanted to take the oil in Iran and he wanted to nationalize it. And that, of course, that's not at all of any interest to the Western world who wanted to control the oil. So there's been so much of this Neptune cycle that interferes with the country of Iran, all right? In 1979, there was a square between Neptune and Saturn. There was the regime change, right, when the Shah was overthrown. The death of the Ayatollah, 1987, that was in power at that time, Neptune Saturn. It's always Neptune Saturn. Even 1917, it tumbled into Neptune Saturn conjunction. It tumbled into the attempt by the England to put together a petro deal to take the, work to have the oil for them from Iran. And eventually it all kind of unfolded badly. There was also a famine back then. And then that the ruling like monarchy, the Kaja, I can't remember how to say it. They folded like by 2021. So we know that with what's going on there now, forget about our political views. I'm saying that this is literally what happens when Neptune and Saturn are doing something. They just co-joined at 0 degrees of Aries on February the 13th, right? So we're in a big cycle between those giant planets that have a 35-year, synodic cycle. That is why we're seeing so much disturbance with this country, because it runs on that cycle. It gets fractured on that cycle. Do you know what I mean? So
Yep.
And then we have the microcycles, which are the eclipses and stuff. So it's interesting that her chart looks so amazingly hooked up to her country. But I want to be clear that there were less women empowered for school and politics, political power positions in politics under the Shah's regime from 1953 to 1979. So you know what I mean? Like that's historical fact. So with this particular woman, yeah, she's talking about more women's freedom, like wearing a veil or a hijab. Although that they're not doing that in Iran anymore. So, but I get it. But I just want to be really clear that it's not like it was great before the Ayatollah came in and they had the theocratic revolution, became a theocratic state. It wasn't great before that either. So it's like you got to look at history. You got to look at what's really happening, and not go, well, good and bad is just different. Does that make sense?
It's just how the country evolved.
It evolves on Neptune, and it evolves on Saturn. In fact, I think they have I think if I remember the chart that I use, they have an exalted Venus in Pisces, maybe, which is very interesting because that's in a spiritual terms, that's about the exaltation of the feminine. And if I'm not in the religion, right, I'm not there. It's not part of my world to be a Shia Muslim, but I mean, there is a lot to do with Neptune's desire for religiosity or spiritual attainment, and Saturn meaning the control structures that can happen with it, right? So, and holy wars as well can be those two planets. So we're in a kind of a time that was going to happen no matter what, is what I'm saying. We're going to see this destabilization of Iran because it has been destabilized every single time Neptune and Saturn are doing something in the sky important, like a conjunction or a square.
Wow. I mean, this time is conjunct right at the beginning of the zodiacal wheel, 0 Aries.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like, when people ask me, what do I think of it? I say, where do I start? I mean, Saturn is the map, the world map. And when I think about Saturn, Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, the world map will be redrawn.
The what? It's the what, Saturn? I can get the word.
Oh, when Saturn and Neptune conjunct at 0 Aries.
Yeah. Oh, the world axis. Yes.
No. People ask me, what do I think? I say, where do I start? But when I think about Saturn, Saturn is talking about the world map as we know it.
Oh, yes. Of course. We're going to have complete boundaries redrawn too. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it.
So the world map will be redrawn for sure. And I guess we have looked at her chart enough. Basically, I've written everything here so that people can look at her activations. It's been nonstop since as far back as 2023.
Yeah, and you can't make you can't make it up, right? Her ascendant's on the ascendant of Iran's chart. Her sun's on the sun of Iran's chart. This is her destiny.
And all the Venus star points, if I slap on the different predictive techniques, basically you can see like not many placements within her chart I've not circled in some way, shape, or form that's triggered or activated.
Mm-hmm.
So I do see her stepping up to the plate and really be telling it like she means. And
oh my God, her Mercury's at 0 Aries.
Exactly.
Right on the Neptune-Saturn conjunction. Good, fine. We're going to have to keep following her and see what happens.
Yeah, so she's the one to watch. And coming up right at the beginning of April, because of that Libra full moon that originated from a solar eclipse back in early October 2024. This one is opposing her sun. So things are going to be illuminated, what she'll be doing. And of course, the sun rules her ascendant, even more so. And I see for the years to come, for the rest of this decade, she'll be really be in her zone of advocacy and also activism as well. Yeah. So let's change gears and talk about the angry mango. Because, you know, the tan is not quite orange, you know. Yeah.
Yes,
so
yes,
mango
yes,
kind of
yes.
fits.
The guy who changes his mind every day.
Well, or you can blame it on the spray tanner that works in like Mar-a-Lago. So, and this next, I would say, major point in April 2026 will be that triple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. This also coincides with the Lyrid meteor showers, by the way. And I'll be talking just very briefly about what the meteor showers can be about. Because I find it interesting that these two events are coming like so close together in this coming month. And what's really potent in terms of activations and what's triggering his chart will be that triple conjunction squaring his Mercury close to exact. And Mercury in his chart is super important because he's born as a Gemini sun, North Node, and Uranus person. As one half of a total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. So this triple conjunction squaring his Sun, North Node, and Uranus's ruler gives it that much more power, put it that way, but not in a good way. Because when I think about Mercury, Mars, and Saturn all squaring his natal Mercury, the mind can go berserk.
You mean more berserk?
More berserk. Because
now,
not forgetting that his Mercury rules over that Uranus of his.
Right. And without even taking taking the modern rulership part of it and looking at just Mercury, right? Mercury in Cancer in his 12th house is also square Neptune in his chart, which is, I always think Mercury square Neptune is being able to confabulate, right? To make things up or to be able to embellish a lot, right? Because it's got that vibe of, speaking with make-believe energy, right? Kind of that kind of thing.
Well, Mercury in Cancer is also an emotionally charged, subjective way of managing your mercurial thinking patterns. So there's going to be emotions involved.
True. So it's really going to trigger that for him when that triple conjunction occurs. Yes.
Yes. And with that Mars, Saturn, and Mercury together in Aries, probably he's stuck like, oh, how do I kind of resolve this attack on Iran? First and foremost. But before I even go to the possible, should I say, ways that this can turn out for the angry mango, what he decides to do, let me just very briefly talk about this Lyrid meteor shower that will also happen in the 3rd week of April. When I think about a meteor shower, in this case, a Lyrid one, it's almost like a cosmic whisper of sorts. A Lyrid meteor shower is the oldest known shower that dates back to 687 BCE. That's linked to the myth of Orpheus, symbolizing the power of artistic expression, emotional surrender, and love that requires bravery. Aries season bravery. It is also culturally recognized as an opportune time for manifestations, setting intentions, and finding and wishing on good fortune. So you may use what's going on in the third week of April 2026 to reevaluate your passions and desires. Some of you may actually have a sudden creative spark, but some of you can also be going through like a crossroads kind of theme as well. So I've just very briefly written down some things that pertains to the fire, earth, air, and water signs for this. And for fire signs pertaining to this Lyrid meteor shower, you may actually have sparks of inspiration and rapid evolution. But what you need to know is perhaps you need to take calculated risk and channel passion into personal passion projects. So this is what it may mean for the fire signs. In relation to this meteor shower, how about the earth signs? The earth signs will be dealing with like foundational shifts and illuminating truth. I am a Taurus moon, so I know this. It's when this meteor shower occurs, perhaps there's a need to let go of control in some way, shape, or form and allow the universe to clear out what no longer serves your long-term goals. I guess that's the best way to put it. So how about the air signs? Under the influence of this Lyrid meteor shower, you may actually have some kind of mental clarity coming through, and some new connections may also come up for you. It's about rebalancing the social sphere and speak your truth, particularly regarding unresolved work or friendship. So last but not least, the water signs. This Lyrid meteor showers can be talking about romantic awakening and vulnerability. You will need to trust your intuition over this period of time, perhaps also lowering your guard in the process, and be honest about your desires, even if it feels just that little risky.
That was lovely. Wonderful.
Okay. So now let's move on with what actually may come for the angry mango and what he may decide to do. Because everything's playing out so fast, I can only formulate as of late March 2026 what he may plan to do for April 2026. First, and I'll go from the least likely to the most likely. Okay. So the least likely is to declare victory and call it a day with Iran. We all wish that, right? But,
Yeah.
and by the way, the USD or US dollar is now having its Saturn return.
Oh,
I do
wow.
see the USD going down the pits. And of course, with everything playing out, I'm not surprised at all. Yeah. And why would he let Middle East oil-related investments dry up coming to the US? So that's why I don't think he will choose option one. Highly unlikely. Now, option two, this is an alternative that I've talked before. This is about Trump becomes unwell and JD Vance takes over. This is like a mid-tier possibility. I have looked at certain charts, particularly his and also JD Vance's. It's not giving a very strong likely outcome for April 2026. Now, the third one is probably, most people will be dreading it, but I do see this happening, which is a decision to enact the military draft for the USA and send troops into Iran.
You think they're going to make a draft decision in April? Because right now they are sending the 82nd Airborne over there. So are you saying that you're thinking they're going to legislate or make you're talking about an actual decision to enroll people in war?
Yes.
By lottery of some sort?
By lottery.
Okay.
I think I've shown this particular graphic, and also this one in I think it was 2 months ago. I've shown this graphic. This comes in really strongly for April 2026, particularly around the triple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. If you think about the symbology, Mars and Saturn are uniform armed groups.
Organized,
And
yeah, organized militias, organized war, structured war. Yeah.
and that Mercury is that, lottery or that
Yeah.
ladder.
And Neptune in Aries has always correlated with draft enrollments and institution of draft. So, like in the Civil
Right.
War. So, yeah, that's a scary thought. If that does happen, I hope you're not right. I hope we're not right, because I've been worrying about that ever since the Neptune Aries thing started.
Yeah, I mean, I've put my analysis here for people to see, even looking into the astrocartography map over Iran over the third week of April when the triple conjunction is going to take place. And it doesn't look peaceful at all. None. Not at all. He may be up to some rash decisions.
Mm.
And he perhaps may be looking for cannon fodder to get his agenda through.
I think that it may also be about getting, people on the ground. I hate that expression, boots on the ground. Can we say people to the slaughterhouse to take over Karg Island, which is a really crucial part of Iran's oil export endeavors? But the thing about that is that we also have a sky that does correlate with a lot of the Vietnam protesting era as well, and part of that includes the South Node Leo Jupiter story. And it's really possible we might end up seeing like people kicking out, pushing back, because it depends on the generations, right? It's the boomers who still like go with the program, but the younger people, especially the Gen X and the Gen Z, they're like, yeah, right. Especially Gen Z, they're like, no way. Millennials, Gen Zs, they're not buying like, I'll die for this, this war of choice. So I don't know. There could be that could happen, like you say, but I'm hoping that there will be actual, as a Canadian watching on the sidelines, actual rebellion around this.
I mean, just days later, less than 96 hours later, we've got that Venus and Uranus conjunction right at the end of Taurus. And this is exactly squaring Trump's ascendant and Mars as well. There's going to be pushback, but how far can it go? I'm not too sure. Yeah. So I'll be looking at the last 10 days of April 2026 for something of this nature in terms of its possibility to occur, to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
And people will be unconvinced. I said, why? Why do we have to enact the military draft? Why can't he just be sick? And then let's all be happy and JD Vance takes over. I said, is it really a good thing that JD takes over? Knowing that who's his ex-boss is, who got him this position.
Yeah, well, JD's a technocrat, not necessarily a warmonger, but he actually is, Teal et al. Those guys are behind him. But something, he has Trump's chart. He has the same thing. He has that same Taurus midheaven Leo rising. Like he's a mini me in a way. I don't know. I think he's a pragmatist. I just did a recording with a face reader, a really lovely guy, Taylor Northcutt. It'll be out just before this. You and I dropped this one. And we're talking about JD's face in terms of face reading. And it's really like an earth face, and earth faces are just pragmatic as all hell, right? I mean, it goes back down to practical, pragmatic decision making rather than, say, philosophical or religious or ideological. So maybe having a more realistic, pragmatic and person within that position would be a good thing, because it's basically going to run more on the bottom line, right? What will the end point be?
Well, I also have to tell the audience that JD and Trump are just the face of it all.
Absolutely. These guys are just puppet strings above all world leaders, right? Is what's really going on.
It's what the deep state actually wants in the end.
It is. It
So
is.
if I look at possibility number two, which is about Trump being sick and JD takes over, what's actually going on in the last 10 days of April with that triple conjunction going on with Mercury, Mars, and Saturn, I don't see a very strong case that JD has that opportunity to step up as the POT US. Even if he does, it's going to be very temporarily. So it doesn't really change like the overall trajectory of things.
Mm-hmm.
Ivan may go on and say that after looking at his natal progressions and solar arc directions and pile up everything wrapped up in transits and the Venus star points and all those things, I still don't see a very strong case for him stepping up to the plate
In
in
April.
official position. Yes.
Yeah.
I do see, however, him needing to go along with a certain narrative that's deeper in the state, if you know what I mean. Rather than him practicing his own discernment and projecting those out. He's more of like, as you say, he's got puppet strings all over him. So two is not a very strong possibility, although I know people are hoping very hard for that. But this will only be something that's very temporarily if it happens. Yeah. All right. And this kind of takes me to my next point surrounding Taiwan. Because this triple conjunction, if I use the astrocartography map, all three lines, when those conjunctions are going on, falls over Taiwan.
Wow. Okay, so that's interesting because there's another cycle. There's a Mars cycle connected to China's chart that I did a video and talked about it like a year ago that I said, well, April of 2026 will be the Taiwan China thing because of that cycle. And literally it has to do with the Saturn Mars conjunction in China's history vis-a-vis Taiwan. So yes, absolutely amazing that the astrocartography lines up like this.
Oh, I mean, this can go one of several ways. One of them will be like China attacks Taiwan, but I don't see that going on because of what's going on back home in China regarding the military not being prepared and all those things. And it's also due to all the corruption that's been going on in the military over there. What other possibility I can think of? This will be the rapid militarization in the neighbors of Taiwan, such as South Korea, Japan, and Philippines, etc., by dramatically increasing their defense spending and purchasing weapons from the West, such as the US and Israel.
Interesting. I hope that's true in terms of not having another war front in the world at the same time.
So this can be in preparation of some shit that's going down soon, later in the year. Triggered by a flashpoint, which is Taiwan.
So with China being a Aquarius rising moon on the ascendant and Pluto tracking right over all of that, how do you see that for China as a country? Because I mean, Pluto can be everything from death and destruction and chaos to power and wealth.
Because it will intermittently go out of bound in the South declination, which is power to the people. In short, there has been a recorded massive increase in protests in China.
Okay.
So you can see they are like on home ground, there's a lot of things to deal with, a lot of factors. Will they actually reach out to attack Taiwan in 2026? I don't think so, because of what's going on back home.
Okay.
I'm sure that you heard about the the top few military personnel in China that was recently purged.
Yes,
So
yes,
now
yes.
there's only like the main leader of China plus only one yes man in his camp. The
Mm-hmm.
rest have all been purged. So the target is on his back, in other words. And you just need some hairpin event to make sure that the military doesn't have your back. In other words, if you decide to push for this, it'll be a very bad move, actually. But having said that, if I'm not wrong, Taiwan also recently committed to buy even more firearms from the US. So this can be this as well.
Okay.
To arm themselves.
Sure. With Mercury being commerce, the commerce of war.
And trading.
Yeah, trading and commerce.
Yeah. And then Saturn is like the reserves, the money that you dedicate it to a certain cause, and it's Martian and Aries in nature for defense purpose.
Well, in Canada too, sorry to interrupt that, but our prime minister, he's got a lot of puppet strings as well, Carney, but he's like making all these like smooth talking, friendly trade deals around the world. One of them is China, working with China. But I really think that bringing China into the fold, so to speak, from the powers that be, is really what the call of the sky is. It's not so much to villainize and go to war with China, but to try to what we call say westernize it. You can say make it a part of the control structures that really run the show, right? Rather than to push back and make it into a.
If I were to be honest here, like there's a few countries in the world that's very much infiltrated by the Chinese, and Canada is one of them.
Oh yeah, I know. I live here. That's self-evident, right? But we have a lot of refugees here as well, so to speak, who fled, especially the Hong Kong stuff. But yes, maybe that's true. But you're saying real infiltration, okay?
And then in Europe, it's actually Spain and Greece. And in Asia, it's actually South Korea.
In terms of
there as well.
Spain, Greece, and South Korea. In terms of what?
Chinese infiltration.
Infiltration, okay.
And the influence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Singapore is up there as well, but I'll leave that for another time. And let me now look at Trump's good friend Satan Yahoo. There's a lot of talks whether he's still alive or not with those AI videos. You've written articles on that. With what, 6 fingers? Or the pocket?
6 fingers, 3 fingers. The pocket didn't move correctly. Then his last press conference on March 9th. Some people have said that's an AI regenerated version of his April the 10th, 2023 conference where he said he wasn't going to fire Yoav Gallant after all. And there's like a lot of suspicion about it. I mean, there were some weird glitches in that one too, with his hand showing 3 fingers at one point. The thing is that it's just interesting that we live in this deep fake land, right? That we've learned to now love and hate. It's creative and it's alarming. Whether he really is alive at this point, yes.
I still stand by 2026 because of the near tetrad of blood moon eclipses. We've gone through 3 consecutive actual ones, technical ones. The last one is a partial lunar eclipse, but more than 80% of the moon is still eclipsed. So I count that in. And if I just compare the total lunar eclipse points that's occurring in recent times since 2025, there's so many activations to his chart. All 3 total lunar eclipses. And if you think about transit Mercury retrograde in Pisces, activating all 3 prior total lunar eclipses, doesn't it explain all the AI videos?
It does. We have that whole Neptunian
Big
vibe,
videos.
that whole it's actually Piscean vibe, but Neptune rules it. Is it real or isn't it real? What's true? What's not true? Let me put some fake videos up so you can be confused. I know. Well, I mean, the guy's got that South Node transit over his midheaven Saturn, that the blood moon eclipse was hitting his Saturn in his 10th house. And so these things have to have an impact for him. They're going to either take him out of power or could take him out of his body, you know?
I have actually looked at two things. One of them will be the same. You know what's interesting? Because the triple conjunction of Mars, Mercury, and Saturn, they are all opposing his Mercury and squaring Trump's at the same time.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all have like Mercury at 7 to 9 degrees of the cardinal signs. So this is what I find interesting. And days later, that Uranus and Venus conjunction at 29 Taurus is also activating his chart quite a bit. And for this, I know this wheel is a bit, well, it can be complex for a lot of people. I basically looked at natal, progressions, and solar arc directions for that month when that triple conjunction takes place on 20th to 21st April 2026. And all the highlighted placements here are the important ones or trigger points, so to speak. And you can see it's quite a lot. And this kind of reminds me of my prediction that I've put out. I think back in January 2026, our first podcast together, pertaining to him perhaps suffering from an insider job assassination that may be executed on him. I still see this being very plausible in 2026 on the backs of a near tetrad of total lunar blood moon eclipses activating his chart.
Yeah. Okay. I've been sort of seeing the same thing for a lot of reasons. So yeah, it just seems like almost nearly impossible that he's still around by the end of this year. Even if he's even still around, but he probably is still around. It's almost like a deep fake of a deep fake. Let me put out AI videos so everyone wonders if I'm around.
Yeah. I mean, I stand by this. So if there's later news coming out into the forefront, you know where you heard it from. Okay. So this takes me to my last slide. And it's still a pretty loaded one because I just want to put the other miscellaneous predictions to the very last slide. I still see the oil and energy prices continuing to spike to new record highs. And unions may actually form shutdowns to end the wars. Okay, this is coming from that days apart Mercury, Mars, and Saturn triple conjunction, then followed by Venus and Uranus. Uranus is labor unions, or should I say unions in short?
The unions, are you taking that from like, because Saturn can, in the ancient tradition of Hellenistic astrology, represent like the labor market, the laborers, the everyday working class people. So you're saying that maybe is it coming off of Mars rebellion and protest or pushing back? I mean, what are you thinking? Is this just your mind thing this, or where does unions protesting record high oil come from in your mind astrologically?
This can be the unions fighting back in response to them potentially losing their jobs because of the record high oil prices. Right.
So then you could take the Mars, but the onset of the synodic cycle that lasts 2 years is Saturn, labor unions and markets of laborers and working people, and Mars is the pushback energy.
And if you think about it, if I were to apply mundane astrology, Mars and Saturn, isn't that was it blue collar?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the blue collar. So the part and parcel of unions.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who will not put up with this. I think it's that Mercury is like, we've had it officially.
Yeah.
And we just want to let you know what we really think. So the next one, this is a bit more insidious. This is talking about more suspicious fires. And in March, we have seen the recent one for Nebraska, which is very like, not many people are talking about it.
Yeah, I
We're
didn't
gonna
know
see
about
more
it.
of that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And there's going to be also mysterious train derailments, Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. And this is on the backs of Neptune being close by, also in Aries. So flooding disasters will also come as well.
Hmm.
And we are going to have Venus and Uranus both ingressing into Gemini. And not to forget that we've got that Gemini energy being ruled by that Mercury still in Aries, that's still close by Mars and Saturn. So continual drone attacks, which can lead to flight cancellations ahead. This should not be surprising to anyone, knowing that we lived through most of March 2026. But the next one, I just want to talk about this. This is, I've got separate charts for this. I'm talking about chaos in Los Angeles. And I've looked at the chart of Los Angeles, what's coming up. And something is very concerning pertaining to the triple conjunction of Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. What is it triggering? And then just days later, that Venus and Uranus conjunction. Okay, the next part, I better phrase it properly. There can be something not exactly to the magnitude of 9/11.
For Los Angeles.
For Los Angeles, downtown actually. And for this, I managed to find this chart. What's really interesting is that, okay, let me rewind a little bit. The US Bank Tower in downtown Los Angeles was bought by the same guy who owned the Twin Towers when 9/11 occurred. The Silverstein Group. This US Bank Tower was transacted back in, I think, September 2020. So it's been 6 years. Look at where the sun is. It's very close to the upcoming Aries new moon point.
Oh,
That's
yes.
going to conjunct Chiron, first and foremost, Eris, Eris, and also this asteroid that's called Kali, Kaali, as in the goddess Kali. This worries me quite a bit. Over here. And also, there's activations from Mercury, Mars, and Saturn as well to the chart of the US Bank Tower. Or the chart of US Bank Tower in downtown Los Angeles.
That particular 27 Aries moon around the 17th of the month is also connected to the April 2023 eclipse at 29 degrees of Aries. So there's kind of an echo to things that may have occurred after and around that eclipse as well.
And the one in April 2023, I remember that one because I was somewhere in the world.
Well, and we had the node off in Taurus still, but we had the eclipse in the sign of Aries. So
yes,
it'll be interesting to see if there's anything that happened in LA connected to not even just this building, just Los Angeles, of any note back then, because it may be like an echo chamber. And
not to forget that later on this year, when there's a Mars and Uranus conjunction in early Gemini, the astrocartography lines of Mars and Uranus conjunction falls over Los Angeles and Iran as well.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So can they catch a break? Your guess is as good as mine, you know.
So what are the odds that whatever happens in the Los Angeles area isn't a nefarious story to do with like reminding us of 9/11, but rather it's an earthquake?
Or it can be, look over there. Let's blame it on Iran for what happened to this bank tower in downtown Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, that's the big speculation. Even Tucker Carlson has been talking about it, and he's been talking about watch out for manufactured consensus events. Yeah.
Or psych ops. Yeah.
Yes. Psychological operations.
There is a silver lining with April 2026 in that the true human and environmental cause of war may be put into a tangible report, Mercury, by environmental scientists, just to keep humanity in check. I mean, if you're going to charge like 5 or 10 cents for a plastic bag and I'm saving the environment, then you go around and just bomb the world. Hypocrisy much, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the environmental cost of war, if it has a nuclear element, is pretty obvious. And that's the biggest threat going on right now as well. We're tracking back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki astrologically in various ways.
And for the next one, because of Uranus's ingress into the sign of Gemini, trining Pluto coming up, I do see influencers who are reporting on the actual war situation being demonetized or deplatformed as a result as well. The next one is a wild guess because again, I'm looking at the Venus-Uranus conjunction in late Taurus here. And the Aries stellium being tied to the outer planet minor grand trine. $1 billion company may actually collapse next month.
Wow.
So do look out for news of potentially that happening.
Yeah. The New York Stock Exchange sun is it's in late Taurus on Algol. So I think it's 27 or 26 and a half or 28.
Venus and Uranus. Yeah.
Yeah. So Venus and Uranus are doing a grand finale on the turbulent anaretic degree with an orb of the New York Stock Exchange's sun. So that kind of ties in with what you're suggesting. Yes.
So
and that conjunction. Wait, what was the date, Donnie, for that conjunction of Venus and Uranus?
I think it's on the 23rd or 24th of April.
Oh, I've got it. Yeah, I have my notes here. It's the 22nd, 23rd-ish, or around there.
Okay.
Yep.
So for the very last one, I would say for April, same as for March 2026, if you can avoid very public gatherings, please avoid them. Because there's potential terrorist attacks that may be going on as well. Because
you mean like big football stadiums and stuff?
Potentially. Because the thing is, I guess I put out a post on Substack, a note, not an article. Was it Vesta is the last of the bunch that will trigger the recent total lunar eclipse in Virgo via opposition.
And meteor showers that shouldn't be there, maybe connected to the asteroid Vesta. Someone sent me an article on it, but I haven't read it. So Vesta's raining from the sky.
Well, I mean, Mercury in Pisces, you can believe it or not.
Exactly.
The next thing is that Mars, Saturn with Mercury configured in it, it really talks about data centers that's popping up all over the world. And something might be revealed or some news may come out to talk about what those data centers that's popping up all over the world can be about.
Okay.
Some can be deliberately mining Bitcoin in order to get us prepared to the blockchain technology going up the new financial system. That enforces technocratic slavery, or those can be personal data mining operations that can fall under the illegal framework, depending on the country where they're located. So I've said a lot regarding April of 2026. And since we are taping this with Mercury still in Pisces, I have looked at some musical lyrics and I decided to take myself back to 1998. That was when Saturn was at 29 degrees of Aries, by the way. And some of you may know this song. Some of you probably not. But do note that you've got the music in you. Don't ever give up. You got a reason to live. Can't forget, we only get what we give.
Oh, I love that because that's how I started, right? To try to remind people you have your own microclimate of your own life and you can make good things happen within that climate no matter what. Like Viktor Frankl made being in a prison cell a good thing. You can find a way through no matter what goes on in the larger world. So I'm going to say like this is amazing, but when the night is falling, you cannot find the light. You feel your dreams are dying. Hold tight. This whole damn world could fall apart. You'll be okay. Follow your heart. You're in harm's way. I'm right behind. You've got the music in you. Don't let go. You've got the music in you. One dance left. This world is going to pull through. Don't give up. You got the reason to live. You can't forget. We only get what we give. Who wrote that?
The New Radicals?
That's the band?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to go Google that. Okay, wonderful. That's beautiful. What a nice way to end, Donny. So perfect, actually. So the sky may be falling, but it doesn't mean your sky is falling. And hopefully your sky isn't falling, right? Hopefully you're okay.
Till then, I'll still be busy, like, getting a lot of things done.
Yes. I've got my sun, moon, and Mercury in Aries plus Athena, Pallas Athene. So I'll be in an interesting month of April, I'll tell you.
And by the way, happy birthday in advance.
Thank you so much. I'm taking some time up in the mountains. I'm going to go get a little spa treatment. I'm going to do a hot cold plunge on my birthday. And then a few days after, take some time off of social media and honor the fact that, life is more than our screens and our devices. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. So go ahead and enjoy yourself. I'll be trying to luxuriate in my own little comfort or bubble.
Well, exactly. And also, guys, I not that I'm a new age, person about it all, but meditation, there have been studies that show when we all meditate, we can decrease local crime, like groups of meditations. This was the experiment put on by transcendental meditators from the downline of the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Anyway, so if group prayer and group meditation have any impact, and I do believe they can, rather than what you dwell upon grows, there may be things out of our control. The world is out of our control. We're not in charge of this world, unfortunately, not at the individual level, but at the collective level, we have the power to actually gather in prayer or gather in meditation or in your own lives. Just do that. And it certainly can't hurt. You know what I mean? Like these are what Donny and I just talk about are patterns in the sky, and they may or may not manifest the way they look. In fact, every planetary body and every planetary alignment has the lowest expression and the highest expression. Mars can be the fireman heroically saving someone from the burning fire, and Mars can be the homicidal maniac, right? So you've got to understand there's a progression of layers or
a whole
level.
Spectrum of possible
spectrum. That's the right word. Spectrum of Neptune can give you enlightenment or insanity, or addiction. So let's try to all hope for the highest level of expression, not just in a desperate way, but by being in that more in your own little micro universe, being in a place of alignment, finding inner peace, activating your own, music inside you.
Exactly. And you will find the rhythm within you.
Exactly, Donny. Thank you. Donny might sound like he's all about the doom and gloom, but he's actually getting to know him on the side between our sessions. He's a very spiritual being. Okay. So we'll find Donny over on Substack. Donny, give us exact names. I'm going to have it in the edit. What do you name your Substack these days?
Just like my name, DonnyLim.
Okay.
That's my Substack name. And there's also my YouTube channel name as well, my handle. And you can also look for me on other socials, which I go under a different name, Alchemy Light, with an underscore in between the two words on Instagram, Facebook. I will put my Linktree electronic business card with all the links in it. So it's a one-stop shop.
Perfect. That's wonderful. So thank you so much. We recorded on March 25th. The world is still here. This will be coming out a few days later before April 1st. Thanks, Donny. I appreciate your time. I'm going to pause the recording and say goodbye to you privately. Okay. Bye. And the audience, thanks for listening. We appreciate your time.
Lunatic astrology.